Yes, it's ready.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time participating in this webinar. And I'm glad we have Tim Bascom, the Executive Director of Kansas Book Festival, uh, to inform us about this year's book festivals, authors and other kind of, behind the scenes, the logistics, and even I'm asking about fundraising and volunteer opportunities. So thank you very much, Tim,
Yeah.
for your participation. So why don't you, well, let me introduce myself first. I'm Usop Jong, Dean of Slim School of Library and Information Management, Emporia State. Um, and why don't you introduce yourself, Tim?
Yes, I'm Tim Bascom. I have directed the Kansas Book Festival for the last 5 years. And prior to that, I was a professor teaching creative writing, largely in Iowa, before moving back to Kansas, which was home territory long ago.
All right. So can you tell us about the little bit of a history of this book festival?
Sure. The festival originally began in Wichita as the Kansas Book Festival, and it was there for 3 or 4 years. I think did quite well, but then they struggled financially. They had to, there was a lapse for several years, and the First Lady of Kansas at the time was Mary Brownback, and she thought it was important, particularly for young people, to develop their reading skills, and a book festival would be part of that. So she started it up again in Topeka. So now we are in our 14th year, and before I came to it, the festival was occurring at the state capitol, and then we moved it from there to Washburn University, which seems a little bit more of a uh, less austere, more friendly space. It's worked well to have it there.
All right. Well, just kind of sidetracked. This is Mary Brownback was in my office here to explore possibilities of collaboration. So, uh, so how do you? So what does it look like? The collaboration with Washington University. There must be a lot of logistics kind of issues and so solutions, particularly from the library.
Yes, the host for the festival is the library at Washburn University, and they've been very supportive. It's been a good partnership. Of course, there are benefits for them because we bring a lot of people onto the campus each year for the festival. And when we first started there, they were in a certain building called the Maybe Library. Just recently, they shifted over into a new building that used to be the law school at Washburn. That was a tricky thing because they were still under construction a year ago. So we had rooms that had no ceiling and things like that, and had to shift all of our tents onto a parking lot.
Mhm.
But they worked with us on all that, got electricity set up so that we could have the exhibitors out there, and got us into rooms. Uh, and the library staff has been terrific because they act as volunteers. They wouldn't normally be there on a Saturday, not all of them, and they're there all day, helping to receive people and direct them and give us spaces that we can work with. So yeah, and we have a reception the day before, which is a big thing at Washburn in the Alumni Center, where the authors and moderators can come and some of the sponsors of the festival.
By the way, Washington University Library's dean is our alum, proud alum, Sean Bird. And
Uh-huh.
he is this year's ESU Distinguished Alum, official
Uh-huh.
Distinguished Alum. So we are very proud of that. Um, and so what about, state library and other organizations like a KLA or school boards?
Yeah, I see our connection to libraries as very central to the festival. The state library just hosted us last week because every year we give grants to under-resourced Kansas libraries. This is something a lot of people don't realize. It's off to the side from the festival, but we gave out $8,500 in total to five different libraries in Kansas, and the state library has acted as our host when we do that event. They also get the word out about those grants. They also send notes out about the festival, letting people know when it's happening and who will be speaking and that kind of thing. Um, and in terms of other libraries, the I just met yesterday with the head of the Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library because they've helped us with some funding. They've also provided people who acted as moderators for some of the sessions, and that's an important collaboration too. Um, Libraries often have hosted events outside of Topeka. I myself am an author, so I will be with two other authors tomorrow at no, Friday at the Manhattan Public Library doing a reading there, and we will, during the process, introduce the festival and let people know that it's coming. So we're always doing things with libraries around the state.
All right. What about the schools? I mean, you will have a lot of kids at the
Yeah.
festival.
Yeah. Again, Mary Brownback originally wanted to particularly emphasize programming for children. It has been a little tricky at times to figure out kind of the angle on that. We have some tremendous children's authors coming. So Lisa Klein Ransom is coming this year. She just received the Newbery Honor for her book, One Big Open Sky, which is about ex-slaves who are migrating out of the South to Kansas. It's a middle grade novel. And I'm excited about her coming and talking from her perspective as an African American author. But I'm bringing her up because the relationship to schools is important with an author like that. And yet, when they speak at the festival, they often are speaking more to librarians, to teachers, to adults who might buy the book for their children. And so it's hard for the author to do both things at the same time, reach children and those adults. So we tend to emphasize the adult interaction, but also to try to have like one or two authors will do readings in our children's activity tent that are for the youth. And then we try to get some authors into schools, particularly in the Topeka area, while they're here. So Lisa Klein Ransom will go and speak to kids coming from multiple schools in the Topeka district. And another author will go to a school called Topeka Collegiate and speak there. And another will go to Wanamaker Elementary here in our area. So we always try to coordinate both things at the time of the festival.
Good, good. So do you have the session for Bill Martin Jr. Picture Book Award again this year?
Yes, and I forgot to say that. Another important award is the Bill Martin Jr. Picture Book Award given through Emporia State University. And this year, the author is I'm curious to go to this. She used to write comedy for the Jimmy Kimmel show, and then oddly made this jump to writing a humorous book for children that is titled Buffalo Fluffalo. So it's a playful book for particularly young kids. It'd probably be more of a picture book. I mean, leaning towards even a board book, I think. But she's going to be speaking during the day as well, with Heather Caswell coming up
Mhm.
from Emporia to help with that session.
All right, I'm pulling out this Buffalo Fluffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo Fluffalo.
This link here. By the way, if you do not know uh, the name Bill Martin Jr., you may remember his book, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. That's a famous rhyme, uh, kind of, picture book for kindergarten or probably younger kids. So it's very memorable. Once you hear that, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom is very, long time stuck in your head. If you have kids or you got through that age,
Well,
uh,
I'm
really,
curious. It was Bill Martin Jr. himself a librarian?
yes, I believe so.
I
And
think he may have been in Topeka, actually, but I'm not
um,
sure. At Topeka West?
I don't know exactly. I was surprised to find there is a picture book award after his name, and then I kind of searched, and then the his collection actually archives are in like a Texas A&M or somewhere in
Uh-huh.
Texas,
Okay.
where he worked as a librarian. But then, I don't know his kind of origin. Maybe we can look up at the Wikipedia, but
Yeah.
that's a great opportunity. The author is coming in person.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
And her name is Bess Kalb, Kalb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last year, the author couldn't make it, but I believe he made a wonderful kind of video
Hmm.
kind of presentation about 20 minutes, I would say. Basically read all those kind of contents and then highlights uh,
Hmm.
the how he kind of the illustrates here and there with the different kind of effects. That was fascinating, but it's just kind of a file, but it was very mesmerizing
Yeah.
how to draw and all kinds of things. So it will be very popular session then. Wonderful. All right. Any other notable authors? I mean, every author it matters, but you know.
Right. One of the things that's hard for me is that we work every year at first to get some big name authors because we know that that's going to draw people. And yet I'm sometimes excited about ones that people won't know as much about. So let me give you a couple of them. In terms of a big name author, Bill Curtis is a media figure from Kansas who had his start in Topeka when he was actually in law school, but working the radio. And the tornado in the 1960s came in and hit Topeka and did a lot of devastating damage, including a lot of buildings at Washburn University. Anyway, he was on the air at the time and he said, "Dear God, take cover." And people heard him and were saved because of it. He got some attention, eventually went on to a whole career in Chicago as a news broadcaster. And then people today would know him because he is the voice that you're hearing. If you go to NPR and you're listening to the show, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, that's Bill Curtis. So he has a new memoir called Whirlwind, and he will be our keynote speaker. He's a standout. Uh, we already talked about Bess Kalb and Lisa Klein Ransom, both pretty large figures on the horizon for children's books. In terms of adult books, um, one that I think is going to get attention is Marion Washington, who, again, it's kind of paradoxical. She wouldn't be seen as an author so much. She was a coach for the University of Kansas women's basketball team, an African American, the first in that position, spent 30 years and became highly respected during those years as coach. And so she has a memoir, and we'll talk, and she's going to draw people, especially since Lynette Woodard will be with her, who, was a very famous KU basketball player on her team. But we'll have people like our own poet laureate, Tracy Brimhall, who is actually a terrific poet, and she'll be speaking. Um, I'm thinking also of Rachel McCarthy James from Lawrence has a new book that's an odd one, but it's from a major press. It's called Whack Job, and it's the history of axe murders, which is a goofy topic, but it will draw people, I'm sure. Um, in terms of authors that might not be known as much, I'm excited about ones that have to do with the environment. We have George Fraser speaking with another author about rivers in the Midwest, in the prairie region, and how important they are to the ecology of our area. And one of the books is about just the Kaw River, the Kansas River that runs through. The other book looks at five rivers, including the Niobrara, which is up in Nebraska, the Missouri River, the Kaw, and others. I'm interested in that session. I'm also interested in one that's about landscapes of Kansas and, along with landscapes, birding. It's an odd combo, but it's natural wonders of Kansas. And in those cases, they have books that have photos all the way through them. And so the photographers will also speak along with the authors. And I think that'll be a very interesting session. There's a woman coming too, Charisse Cheney. It's more scholarly, but she lived in Topeka at the time of Brown versus the Board of Education. And at that time, integration occurred for the schools, and it would seem to be a positive story on both sides in the end, but it actually was very difficult for the Black community in Topeka. They had schools already. They had worked hard to develop them. They had teachers who were Black and who cared about the children that they were teaching. Those teachers lost their jobs with the integration, and the kids went into schools that might be hostile at times. So she's got a book called Blacks Against Brown that is looking at that turbulent, difficult time, and I think it'll be an interesting conversation. Those are just a few that come to mind offhand.
Well, always, I mean, one event has many sides,
Yes.
different side, the back side. So it's interesting to hear that a session has multiple authors, two or three people, including photographers.
Mhm.
Why first, and then how do you organize those sessions?
Well, my understanding is that before I came, there would have been panels, but a lot of times it was an author just getting up singularly and talking about his or her book. I think, and others felt also, that it would be more interesting to have two authors typically talking to each other about a shared interest. So, for instance, with Lisa Klein Ransom, she won't be by herself talking about ex-slaves coming to Kansas. She'll be with a Ukrainian Jewish author
Hmm.
who has a book about a Ukrainian Jewish girl going to the Dakotas during the same time period. So, historical fiction. And getting the two of them together, talking about these stories of migration and ethnic difficulties, um, I think will lead to a very interesting conversation that'll be more engaging than just one author, particularly if the author just reads from the book.
Hmm.
We tell people if you read, read just for a minute or two, no longer, so that you just get a snippet, just a feel of the voice, but have a conversation. And it seems to be received quite well from the evaluations that we're taking.
Yeah, that's very wise idea to put, you know, two authors time to time is quite opposite kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
view.
Sometimes you'll get some odd combinations, but those are even more interesting sometimes. My wife actually moderated a session last year that was on murder mysteries, cold-blooded or cozy. And it was looking at how some murder mysteries are very harsh and violent and others, are sweet. And had authors who had done both kinds, I mean, one on each side, talking to each other. Now, it could be conflictual because they might really feel strongly about wanting to do one or the other, but it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, great. Overall, the authors, I'm not sure that's good word, recruiting, authors,
Yeah,
inviting, you kind of touched, kind of surface. I mean, everyone wants to see the big name, number one bestseller, New York Times, but realistically, it's not kind of possible, and all kind of financially or logistically, they are not simply they are too busy.
yeah.
How do you plan ahead?
How do we plan
Yeah,
ahead?
plan ahead about authors for next year or 2 years ahead.
Well, I keep a rolling list of authors with new books, and people tell me about them or I discover them, and I just keep adding to it all the time. So I've got a list already for next year, probably of 20 or 30 books already. And by the end, that'll probably rise up to 100 different books that are new. We're always looking for ones that are relatively new. And there's a committee that meets, and that committee looks through all of these books. We can't read them. We don't have time. We're going to tend to work more with blurbs about them. Sometimes somebody will have read one of them, and we start talking about, well, what if we put this person with that person? We start thinking about those topical conversations. And then we start thinking, well, we already have something about true crime. We don't need another one. So let's do something with fantasy. So we are always trying to keep an array of very diverse books with multiple genres, different ages, so that we are giving something to everybody. And like Marion Washington is going to pull people who love athletics. Some of them aren't going to be as much into reading, frankly, but they're going to walk in the door because of her.
Mhm.
And maybe they will go to another session and benefit from that too. So we're always thinking, how do we balance it?
Mhm.
That process starts as soon as the festival's over. I have to do a lot of reporting and paying people. Then by December, we hope we already have a keynote author. And in January and February, we're doing a lot of hard work on developing that list of potential authors.
So confirmation, I mean, you just mentioned paying, you know,
Yeah.
the money side. Uh, is it kind of enough? You have like a 6 months out, to reach out to publisher, or I don't know. I mean, authors responding directly to you, or you have to get through agencies to
Most
reach
of the
out.
authors we're corresponding with directly,
Okay.
and uh, I've been helped tremendously by particularly Tom Averill, who's an important figure here in Kansas. He started a Kansas Studies collection at the Washburn University Library that is books by Kansas authors,
Mhm.
and he had his whole career here, and he's a writer himself, and he just seems to know everybody.
Okay.
So when I first came, that was very important because developing those trusted relationships with authors was key to getting them involved.
Mhm.
And now I've gotten to know a lot of these folks. Um, Many of them are not at major presses, and even some who are at major presses, because we developed contact, we're able to reach them directly with Gmail and that kind of thing. And so most of it happens that way. But when we have some of those better known authors, we do have to work through an agent. And as soon as we go there, honestly, I don't find it fun.
Yeah.
Uh, the the agents exist in this industry to make money, and that's okay, I guess. But it means they're going to raise the bar a lot higher immediately on what we have to pay. We only pay a modest stipend to authors coming from out of state who have to fly in, only $350, but it's just enough to say, okay, well, maybe I can do it, and 2 nights free in a hotel, which we have to pay for. So those are costs we have for maybe 10 to 15 authors out of 40 or 50.
Okay.
And then there are a couple of those higher profile authors. This year, one of them is, I haven't mentioned him yet, Kevin Young, who grew up in Topeka, who is now the poetry editor for The New Yorker, which is a big deal. And he has a new collection of poetry, and he'll be coming. And we've had to work through an agent. And so there's been all this added layer of correspondence. And they often don't want you to talk to the author, so you have to go through them to do a lot of the communication. And we're paying a lot more. I think, all right,
Yeah.
3,500, just so you've got it out there. Um, yeah, and that is for some authors still modest.
Mhm.
We can't afford more than that. We're only able to do this because the Lawrence Public Library, again, a library, is helping to make that happen financially.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, those things are real. I know myself because we have ESU Library has William Allen White Children's Book Awards, and then we actually make agreement with authors via agents 2 years out. So,
Yeah.
and it's not about the money itself because they are well known nationally, internationally, well known authors. So they will sell a lot of more books through the book kind of awards. But still, there are many kind of steps. Uh,
Yes.
we
Yes.
rarely talk to authors directly until the last minute for their travel and other things. So. That's a lot of works behind. All
Yeah.
right. So how do you manage the funds for the book festival? Funding side, you mentioned kind of helpers here and there. sustainability is a key to any ongoing events. So how do you manage?
Well, that is probably the hardest part of my job, keeping the revenue that we need. And we are working with a shoestring budget. We've tended to be kind of the little festival that could, and we get enough to make it through a year. And we last year had a little bit of surplus, and that was good news. But we don't have much in our pocket as we begin the year. So I have to, during the year, raise what's necessary. I write grants, and money comes in from those. Uh, but this coming year is a real worry because of federal budget cuts that have impacted our main sources of assistance. Humanities Kansas, the Kansas Arts Commission, the State Library, all of them have had reduced budgets that then spills out towards us and other arts and culture programs. So we are looking at probably the loss of at least a fourth of our funding in the coming year. Last year, or this year actually, in April, we had our first large fundraising event, and it was a success. It didn't bring in a huge amount of money, but it developed a group that we are calling the Friends of the Festival that didn't exist on paper before and was very small. Now it's getting larger. And those are people we can reach out to who will continue to be supportive. So we hope to have more funding that way. Um, we try to get funds through sponsorships. So, like we've had Southern Star, which is a natural gas company, sponsoring a particular session, um, or Delta Kappa Gamma, which is a philanthropic group of teachers, many of them retired. They've sponsored a session and they'll give us $1,000 to help with that session. So we just keep cobbling it together from multiple sources. Yeah.
And I see there are many exhibitors there.
Yes. That does pay for itself. We take registration fees. We don't really profit from it.
Mhm.
We're at the point where we're just covering costs because we have to put up tents and rent tables and things like that. But
So why
that's
why don't you raise the kind of price tag?
well, we have raised it a little bit and we may more. But we're trying to get ourselves, in good position.
Yeah, and there are many independent kind of the publishers and in like a small kind of what probably one man, one woman kind of
Right.
slash publisher, so
That's something we haven't talked about, but the exhibitor area has this year 50 exhibitors. When I started, it was only 30. It's
Mhm.
grown a lot, and we are getting requests right to, like today, I'll get one. Somebody who's saying, I know it may be too late, but please. So we've had to turn down dozens of, particularly individuals with their own book, but sometimes even organizations. It's fun to see how many presses are now coming, because we only had, three or four originally. Now it's more like six or seven that are exhibiting their books.
All right, and you already kind of settled with the volunteers, but still you have spots for volunteers.
Yeah, we're always in need of help that way. Uh, I was on line yesterday talking with some of those volunteers, getting them oriented. We have people who help set up and tear down. We have people who act as escorts or hosts for the authors, getting them to their room and connecting them with their moderator. We have people who are working in the exhibitor area and helping to get it prepared and put books out with the exhibitors. Um, there's a whole set of different tasks. Shuttle drivers are
Right.
always needed. Somebody who will go to Kansas City, get an author off an airplane and bring them to town, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've known those kind of specific tasks because we have classes uh, for that volunteer service learning class. So students describe their tasks, and they got excited to pick up
Yeah,
the author from the airport, and then they have good time actually talking,
yeah.
for an hour or so. Students very enjoyed those interactions.
Last year, that was a huge help, actually. The folks from your program
Mm.
really filled things out in a way we needed. And I ask everybody. So my brother-in-law drove 2 years, and each time he came back talking about how great it was having this long conversation with the author. It was happenstance who he got, but he ended up having a great time. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time,
Yeah.
Tim. You are so busy. If the book festival is coming September 20th, right?
Yes, Saturday, September 20th. Please, whoever's on here, if you're interested, come. We'd love to see you there.
All right. Okay. I will see you there. We have a booth there.
I'm planning to see you. Yeah.
All right. All right. Again, thank you very much.
All
Thank you
right.
everyone for your time.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.